everyone, welcome to our bonus episode for the week. We are talking about Evelyn Plummer. Today, it's a character profile of our favourite newest member of Coronation Street. Well, there's loads of good new ones. But...
Yeah, it is. I was really surprised when I was looking at who we should do, how long she's been in the programme. Because I've got a list of characters that we haven't profiled yet, and obviously not too many left on there now, but it's mostly made up of the recent characters. So it's well, obviously we've not done the Baileys yet because they're pretty new, and we haven't done George yet, and so on. But Evelyn has been on that list as well, and I've been thinking, yeah, she's still brand new, but she's coming up on her 5-year anniversary on Coronation Street. Can you believe that? I would have put it at 3 maybe.
3 years.
Yeah, 3 maybe. But no, 5 years next month should have been on the show. So I think that's probably about time that we did a profile of her. There's definitely been periods when she hasn't been in the show. So has that made it felt less long? I don't know.
There's been periods where lots of people haven't been on the show recently.
Yeah, very, very true. But anyway, so hopefully there'll be a lot for us to chat about today. About the stuff that she's been up to, what we like about her as a character, all that jazz. And we were going to do this a couple of weeks ago, but then we managed to arrange the interview with Jodie Prenger, so this has got bumped back a little bit. So it's been a while since I wrote my notes for this, but hopefully it's going to come back to me.
You made Maureen Lipman wait.
I did for Jodie. Oh. If Maureen Lipman wants to come on the podcast and have a bit of a chat, then I think Jodie, who am I to stop her? I'd drop everything for that.
Jodie did an excellent interview. She
did. So Maureen Lipman has played Evelyn Plummer for 5 years. So we're going to be going all about her story. Gemma, I would like to call upon you to run down the character's vital statistics.
Facts time for facts.
Yeah.
Born on the 17th.
I'm sure that Maureen would have appreciated that.
She loves it. Born on the 7th. We all know she loves music and jazz.
Go on, tell me stuff.
I was doing a scoochy do. What is it called when you scat? I was scatting.
Okay.
Everywhere. Born on the 17th of March, 1946. We don't know who her parents were, but we know she had a sister called Millie Pritchard.
They'd probably change it anyway, and if we did know her parents, it turns out, no, she was raised by someone else.
She was raised by a stork. She was married to Harold Plummer, and she had one child that we know of called Cassandra Plummer. Cassie, who is played by Claire Sweeney. She first appeared on the 12th of September 2018, so we're coming up to her 5-year anniversary.
Good maths. It's almost like I hadn't just told you that fact.
Thanks. She's been in 398 episodes, and she's played by Maureen Lipman.
398, that's not bad. That's give us enough to chat about this afternoon. So Maureen Lipman, when she was cast, I think that's sent ripples across the soap world, didn't it? Because she's not just any old cast in here. I mean, you got big where you got look, Claire Sweeney's playing Tyrone's real mum. That's kind of fairly big. But Maureen Lipman.
Well, Claire Sweeney's famous for being in a soap.
Yeah.
And then she became a celebrity in lots of things as herself.
Yeah. Whereas Maureen Lipman, she's like a proper actor, isn't she?
She's a lovely. Well, she's a lovely, isn't she? That's the thing.
All proper actors.
They're all proper actors.
She's the sort of actor that I would think. I would have said, they don't have time for the likes of Coronation Street. They'd rather be doing their Shakespeare and their BBC One post-watershed dramas. Or
she's done all the Shakespeares, probably.
Okay, she probably has. Or just, a certain time of life, just sitting back and not doing any acting.
Dunking your biscuits.
But this is proof. I can't remember how old Maureen is now, but Evelyn has just turned 73, and it's just kind of show that she's got so much left to give in her, and it's brilliant that she's decided to dedicate 5 years at least to her life to Coronation Street.
Do you think that she's the biggest celebrity in a soap in the UK?
I don't know.
Who wasn't just famous for being in a soap?
Possibly. I don't know enough about the other soaps, I have to say.
No, we just say yes then.
Yes, she definitely is. I think a lot of people were quite surprised when her casting was announced, and she has gone on to show what an asset she has been, and kind of makes me think, love it if they could...
XYZ.
Who else could they get? People that we'd think would
get back
never...
Patrick Stewart.
Get him back again, yeah. Retired fire officer Stewart.
Of course, we love all the actors on Corrie. Just sometimes we get excited with a sort of celebrity signing. And like I said, most of the older cast members who've been there for a long time are celebrities in their own right, just because of their work on Coronation Street.
Yeah, I mean, you had. I mean, I can't remember how famous, say, Betty Driver was before she got the job on Coronation Street.
A lot of the very early stars of Corrie were famous on, you know, the halls and the music hall circuit and entertaining in that capacity. So
yeah, but she is. I think she must be Corrie's first only dame to be on the books. We've had our OBEs and our MBEs, but just recently she's been made a dame. So she's pretty hot stuff. If you don't know much,
we've had lots of people who've gone on to play dames.
We have, yes, that's the usual.
Usual
next Christmas. So Maureen trained at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art.
Ms. Lipman to you.
Yes, that's the right one. First name terms, darling.
Oh, yeah.
She grew up in Hull, part of a Jewish family, and I know that's something that's been very important to her over the course of her life. She made her theatre debut in Watford, would you believe, in the production of The Knack at the Palace Theatre. But she's also been a member of Laurence Olivier's National Theatre Company, the Royal Shakespeare Company, indeed. And she's basically done a heck of a lot of stage work over the years, as in addition to all the TV and film roles she's had, yeah. So her screen debut, as far as I could tell, was in 1968's Up the Junction. Don't ask me what that was.
They don't like it, Up the Junction.
No. And she was also, she was basically, from the 70s onwards, she was, you know, before our time, she was a regular face on telly. She appeared in Crown Court. There was a programme called Couples that she was in for 51 episodes, Agony, loads and loads of programmes. In 1992, she played Countess Esmeralda in Carry On Columbus.
I did not know that they were still making Carry On films in the 90s.
I was really surprised to hear that. I know that they did, like... there was a talk of reviving them at some point in the last 10 years, but I don't think that's gone anywhere. Was Columbus one of the last ones? Because to me, the Carry On films are a bit kind of, I'd say, 70s.
70s and 80s.
Maybe. So anyway, she was in that.
Well, there you go. Get in while it's hot.
And another non-Coronation Street role that lots of people will know her from, I certainly do, was when she played a character called The Wire in the Doctor Who episode The Idiot's Lantern in 2006.
I don't know what that means.
This was the one when this was the second Doctor. It was in series 2, I'm going to say.
Doctor.
Sorry, the second new Doctor. 10th Doctor.
Come on.
Sorry, terrible. They went back in time to the 60s, and it was about like the advent of television, and she played like a kind of Watch with Mother children's TV presenter, Muffin the Mule sort of character. Yeah, but she was actually like an alien who'd invaded the TV, and she sucked out their soul, and she sucked off Rose's face.
Pardon?
And all this kind of stuff.
What did you say?
I pretty much enjoyed that episode, partly because at that point, knew Maureen Lipman from having been in Coronation Street before, because not only has she played Evelyn Plummer, she was also Lillian Spencer in 2002, and I'm always surprised when I remind myself that it was only 6 episodes that she played that character in. But back then, Julie Goodyear, who played Bet, was brought back into the show. Very well reported that Julie had to quit after... barely any time at all. She wasn't able to keep up with the new schedule. She wasn't into it. So Coronation Street showrunners were left with a gaping hole in their storylines. Enter Lillian Spencer, the toffee-nosed landlady. I can't remember. She's been in some fancy hotel or something, and it was apparently a friend of Fred Elliott, who he brought in to look after the Rovers. Ended up barring half the customers. Didn't go down very well at all with the regulars, but big hit with the viewers. Certainly with me anyway. But yeah, after 6 episodes, she was off, and then Coronation Street managed to get their act together and sort out this mess that Julie Goodyear's departure had left them in. But yeah, I loved that role. I remember being absolutely gutted when the character left after only a short while. But was really pleased to see her on that Doctor Who episode, but I never thought I would see her again on Coronation Street. Now, she has also got another quite important link to Corrie in that her late husband, Jack Rosenthal, wrote 130 episodes of the show. And this started way back in 1961. So we've been watching some of the 1961 episodes recently, haven't we?
Yeah.
And Jack wrote episodes from 1961 to 1969. So we've seen some of the ones that he penned. He was also a producer of Coronation Street for about 6 months in 1967. Didn't get on with it. But he went on to be a really prolific writer for stage and screen and got a CBE in 1994. So they're a pretty important
power couple.
Yeah, I'm sure they would never have described themselves as that. I don't know. But yeah, big names in the television world, exactly. Yes.
Blah, blah, blah.
So, sorry, you talk if you want to. Then
no,
you've just been tapping away on your phone.
No, I've been looking up Maureen Lipman. Just I forgot who she was.
I just saw you were on the Carry On Columbus Wikipedia page.
It was the final entry, and I think they hadn't done another one since. It's like the one before that was Carry On Emmanuel in 1978.
Oh, really? So that was like a comeback, was it?
Well,
Okay.
They came and went, didn't they?
So the casting of Maureen Lipman in Coronation Street as Evelyn was announced on the 2nd of August 2018. And the press release went thusly. Outspoken battle axe Evelyn will soon be ruling the roost at number 9, much to Fizz's dismay, and it isn't long before she starts to ruffle a few feathers on the street. And Ian McLeod at the time, this is how long Ian McLeod has been producer. So Ian McLeod said she's a great new character. And he's pleased that she would be played by someone of Maureen's pedigree. He said, Evelyn is eye-wateringly withering and will add a fresh dollop of northern humour to the show as she turns Tyrone and Fizz's lives upside down. What do you reckon to that? Has she lived up to their lofty expectations there?
Definitely.
Definitely a great new character. Withering, yes. And has certainly turned the lives of number 9 residents upside down.
Humour,
obviously,
yes.
The announcement of her.
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else?
I was making jokes. Sorry, I didn't want to.
No, you carry on.
Step on your shoes.
I'm wearing slippers. It's fine. They're nice and soft. The announcement of Maureen Lipman's casting on Coronation Street was also alongside the news that they were tearing up the family history of Tyrone Dobbs. So although I was quite excited and very, very intrigued to see what it would be like to have Maureen back in a regular role on Coronation Street, it was also tinged with a bit of annoyance that everything that we had so far up to that point come to know about Tyrone's history with Jackie Dobbs and everything would be just completely thrown to the dogs. But I've grown to accept it now, at least.
That's part of life, isn't it? Accepting.
Yeah. So, we're going to have a little run through of her stories that she's been up to the last 5 years, have a little bit of a chat about her. I'm sure that Blanche and some of the other big battle axes will come up as part of this. I wanted to also mention as well the whole thing about the pronunciation of her name, because that was something that... It was in their early episodes, wasn't it? And some people were calling her Evelyn.
Yeah.
You can talk and say things if you want.
You tell me if I don't talk, and you tell me if I do talk.
No, but when I kind of say, no, I'm saying something to you. You can. It was a thing in the early episodes when people would call her Evelyn and she would snap back that she was Evelyn, and I remember wanting that to be a bit of a running joke for her, but it never really went anywhere after the first few weeks. Although I'm sure, I can't remember who it was, but a couple of weeks ago somebody did refer to her or call her Evelyn. Do you remember?
No.
Yeah, I can't. It wouldn't have been Tyrone, but something like Ardy or somebody called her Evelyn. I still don't understand. I can understand with characters like Ardy that you might get that. There's Addy and Ardy and.
But they don't have a agreed. There are quite a few characters on the show at the moment who do not have an agreed upon way to say their name.
So sometimes it's if it's a name that's not of English descent. But Evelyn, as British as they come, you can have Evelyn and you can have Evelyn. So I don't understand why people don't know which one it is. But anyway, she is definitely Evelyn. And I'm going to absolutely pass over to you, Gemma. Tell us a little bit about Evelyn's history. So this is everything that we have learnt about her since. What did she get up to before coming into the show?
So this is all true?
This is all true now.
It's not her story that she made up. This is
stuff that has been in the show.
Maybe canon, maybe not.
Definitely canon until they decide that they want to retcon this as well.
So you want to do everything that she did?
Yes.
Right. So in 1969, she romances Arthur.
1963.
And she agreed to move to Canada with him, but then she misses the boat when her dad has a heart attack, and Arthur thinks he's been stood up, and so they never speak again until.
This is I think the earliest that we know of Evelyn. I don't know whether she's talked about her childhood or her own parents or anything like that over the years. But we met who was it that played him? Paul Copley. Yeah, well, see, there's another pronunciation. I can never remember whether it's Copley or Copley. But yeah, we know that she had this relationship with him back in the early 60s. In
the 60s, she gets engaged to and marries Harold Plummer and has a child, Cassandra, around 1966. In the 80s, Cassandra, the child, gets addicted to heroin. And in 1982, Harold dies of a brain hemorrhage.
Oh, no.
And Cassie thinks she's the cause. She runs away from home, and she is missing for 6 months. And Evelyn finds her drugged up in Liverpool with a baby, which is Tyrone. And so Evelyn leaves the baby at the police station, and she spends 18 months with Cassie trying to get her clean from drugs. And it seems like it works because in 1984, Cassie... Well, it works for a little bit, and then Cassie kind of gets back on the wagon again because her boyfriend is a junkie, and she goes to live in South Africa, and Evelyn just decides to wash her hands of her and say that she's dead.
Yeah, well, I'm still not completely sure in my head about whether she believed that she was dead or whether she just couldn't be bothered to check or whether she...
convenient
Yeah, exactly. It was better for her to think that she was dead and then she didn't have to do anything more about it. But Evelyn, from what we've heard about that stage in the 80s, did everything that she could to try and get her kid clean again. She didn't want to leave Tyrone on the police station step, but I suppose knowing, she's known Cassie all this time, she's her flesh and blood, she thinks this baby could have a better life somewhere else, but Cassie's not going to save herself, no one else is going to look after her, no one else is going to get her off drugs, so it's down to me. So it's quite kind of noble, but I think Tyrone's still smarting a little bit after realising that that's what she's done. So we first meet Evelyn in September of 2018, and this was at the tail end of a story where Tyrone had been doing a bit of investigation into his family tree.
Did he have a project at school?
I think he was a bit too old for a project at school about family trees.
Maybe he had one of those things where he wakes up in the middle of the night and goes, "Oh, I forgot to do that homework. I was set it in 1998. And I've not done it. I should really rid my soul of this burden by doing it now."
No, I think it was more to do with the fact that he discovers that what he thought was his mum, Jackie, is dead. Now this is a little bit of crossover because it was only a few months ago that we did Jackie Dobbs as a character profile as well, wasn't it? So go back and listen to that if you haven't done. But yeah, he finds out after Jackie is dead that she ain't really his mum. He gets told that by the person who he thought was his dad, doesn't he? Darren.
Yeah, Darren.
So he's left thinking, my whole life has been a lie. Who is my mum? So it's kind of natural that you might want to do a little bit of hunting down of your real kin.
Imagine being Darren and one day your wife comes home and she's like, "I found a baby. I'm keeping the baby. Don't tell him that he's not my baby." And for however many 30 odd years, he's like, "Honestly, I'm not getting involved."
I can't remember whether the story was that they were trying for a kid or they really wanted a baby, or at least Jackie did or something.
Free baby.
Yeah, free baby. So Cassie is away in South Africa at this point, I think, and Evelyn is on her own, and so she stays until she gets a knock on her door in September 2018 by Fizz and Tyrone. And the first pictures that came out of Evelyn, because she her house was filmed on location, wasn't it? Do you remember that they went to her door and she was there? She's dressed up quite differently in her first appearance. They really wanted to make her very classic retro Coronation Streety, because did she have a headscarf? She had like a pinny on, a little tabard, I think.
It felt like they were trying to, give her a retro Corrie...
Hilda Ogden-esque kind of look.
Well, she's like a combination of her and Ena Sharples.
Yeah, and that look hasn't really stuck with her. But
she's definitely got a distinctive jacket.
Yeah.
With that puffy sleeves with no cuffs.
Yeah, but I think that the idea of, the classic northern terrace living old lady, busybody, curtain twitcher sort of identity that maybe they wanted to give Evelyn in her early days, that seemed to be dropped pretty quickly. But she doesn't want to know Tyrone and Fizz when they come to the door. She's very wary of them. She's got the door on the chain and everything. But eventually she lets them in, vehemently trying to deny the fact that she has anything to do with them. But eventually she accidentally slips up, confirms his suspicions that she is indeed his nana. Oh. I like how that he calls her his nana. Like, where does that one go? There's lots of names for your grandma. Like in your family, it's Nan.
Yeah.
Both of your parents were your nans. Whereas I only ever knew one of mine, and she was my grandma. But Nana it just kind of feels right for Tyrone. It's like a bit cosy and innocent, isn't it?
Yeah.
A bit babyish
Nana.
almost.
It's not as bad as Nanny. Nanny feels like a bit more middle class.
Yeah.
Nana does feel more northern. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know whether it is or not, but it feels to me like, it feels like my Nana's somebody that's it doesn't convey the harshness that Evelyn's personality actually is. Yeah. But it also kind of gives me the idea that he wants to be looked after by this person. Nana's someone that's quite cosy, and Tyrone was always desperate to have a big family because his own mother was so terrible. He never really knew his dad particularly well. Exactly, his fake mum. So to have this Nana around him, he loved the idea. So anyway, she's like, yeah, okay, fine, it's true. I am your grandma. But her first version of the story that she tells him is that
this was true for the vast majority of the time she's been in the show.
No, this bit wasn't.
No, this was used as true, wasn't it?
No, only for a few months this bit was, that it was Cassie who abandoned him. No,
I mean that she's dead.
Oh yeah, sorry. It was Cassie was dead. Yeah, sorry. That was true until very, very recently. But she tells him that your mum abandoned you. Now she's dead. She went to South Africa, died after a short illness.
So don't come calling to me.
Yeah, and I don't want anything to do with you. So Tyrone and Fizz are sent away with fleas in their ears, thinking, well, what are we going to do now? But fortunately, and one might say, coincidentally,
no,
possibly the very next day, I think it was, they get a knock on their own door because Evelyn's being evicted by the council after getting complaints about her from her neighbours.
What's she done?
Basically. Well, I think that the early incarnation of Evelyn was a lot rougher and
horrible.
A bit more antisocial.
She wasn't even funny.
She had some good lines in her first episode, like when she's there at the door when Tyrone and Fizz are at her door. She says, "I've got a cricket bat here with your name on it and the blood of a Jehovah's Witness," which is funny. And she has when she lets them into the house, she says, "You're welcome to your privacy, but not my tin of change. Not that I've got a tin of change." I think that sometimes she doesn't. The thing about Evelyn, I find, is that she doesn't like to show her true feelings very often. Sometimes she does slip up and say something that either she didn't want to reveal or something. So like the fact that she had a tin of change there, she didn't want to know that. But sometimes she'll accidentally say her feelings about something and then kind of stutter and then step back and correct herself because she doesn't want to.
Reveal.
She doesn't want to reveal that she's actually got a heart. But she had some funny lines, but she was definitely more of an Asbo gran, if you like you said in the early days. She even
I remember her doing the quiz and just being annoying.
Yeah, one of her first when she shows up on the street and Tyrone and Fizz let her into the home, one of her first ventures out to the pub. It's pub quiz, and she's there with, is it Ken, Brian, maybe, I don't remember, and she's purposefully getting the answers wrong just to be an arse.
Try and cheat as well, wouldn't she?
I think there's a bit of cheating, but sometimes getting the answers wrong.
Refusing to believe that she was wrong.
Yeah, and
Heckling.
she was also a shoplifter back in the early days as well, and I can't particularly imagine Evelyn being like that now.
What did she do?
Well, she went to Deb's and was trying to steal away some tins of something into her bag, and she got caught doing that. So I think that she was more from the wrong side of the tracks, but maybe just the good vibes of Coronation Street, of all the people living there with absolutely no secrets or criminal records or anything morally, it's even slightly ambiguous about them, and it's washed off on her, and now she's softened a little bit. Yeah. So anyway, she spends the last few months of 2018 earning herself a bit of a bad impression with the family and the neighbours. Like Roy, straight away, she got on the wrong side of, because she was bringing her dog Cerberus, who can't believe we haven't even mentioned him yet, into the cafe.
What's her dog called now?
Freddie.
I haven't seen him.
It's her and Roy's shared dog, Freddie, isn't it?
Well, where is he?
Back for most of Evelyn's time on the show, couldn't have Evelyn without Cerberus.
No.
And I think that's often important for a character to have, like, either an iconic set or an iconic prop or an iconic costume, or in this case, an iconic pet.
You've got to be quite special to have an iconic pet.
You do.
They're few and far between these days.
It has made me wonder, like, how much effort went into planning and creating and designing and perfecting this character of Evelyn, because it was Maureen Lipman, compared to other characters. You know, did they want to make sure that they got it absolutely right? Because they, I guess, wanted Maureen to say, yeah, this is something good to work with here. I'm going to stick with this.
Yeah, just think they're like, give her a dog. She won't be able to say no.
It's like I can imagine when the time comes to renew Corrie contracts, quite a lot of the actors will go up into McLeod's office, and even though he is certainly no axe wielder, but they're going, oh, am I going to get my contract renewed? Probably when it's time for Maureen Lipman's contract to be renewed, it's Ian McLeod shaking in his boots saying, gosh, she's not going to leave, is she?
Please stay. Forget you, Claire Sweeney.
Yeah, so she has really kind of have loads heaped on her. Right from the early days to build her up and develop her as a character and make her somebody that hopefully viewers would love and love to hate and everything. And Cerberus was just another facet that went down with viewers very, very well, because we are a nation of dog lovers.
Yes, she says, oh, it's not... Brian's not... Father Christmas is Brian.
Oh, yes, there was the story where... Wasn't it like... Didn't Brian get stuck up a chimney somewhere? I can't remember. He was being a Father Christmas at the Winter Wonderland or Frescoes or something, and Evelyn revealed to Ruby and Hope that he's not the real one. She's basically just a massive nuisance.
She was very vindictive.
She hated Fizz, didn't she?
Yeah.
She I can't remember what it was, but maybe it was just the fact that she was another human being, and Evelyn doesn't like to get on with or open up to any other human beings, but certainly she's a bit jealousy, maybe. Not a fan of young Fiona when she first came into it. Another thing that she did, which really got Tyrone and Fizz's goat, was that she found Vera's earrings underneath a bed, I think it was, or in the attic, I can't remember, in the early days, and Tyrone found her modelling them. So that's probably, looking back on it, something that I think I can't see Evelyn today doing that, because Evelyn's not one for the glitz, is she? She's not a mega jewellery, makeup, posh clothes wearer at all.
Well, she had a makeover from...
Oh yeah, she did. Claudia at that one time. That was when she was going out with old Arthur again.
Yeah. And
she did kind of like it, but I don't imagine current Evelyn finding Vera's earrings weren't the most, they were fairly tacky, weren't they? They weren't the most subtle of jewellery items. But yeah, Tyrone finds her doing that, and he's like, don't
do that. Don't touch Vera's things.
Evelyn also managed to wind Fizz up by treating Hope and Ruby badly. Well, particularly Hope, because this was, by this stage already, Hope was a wild child, and Evelyn was having none of that, and she thought that, she came from the old school where a few smacks with the cane would sort out an unruly child.
Well, there's also I don't think they really went into this, but obviously Evelyn is biologically related to Ruby, not Hope.
Yeah, exactly.
So she showed a lot of favouritism towards the biological grandchild.
Yeah.
There was one. Hope was also an arsonist.
Yeah. So there was one scene where Evelyn makes Hope stand up against the wall for ages, I think, and Fizz is like, oh, you can't discipline my child like that. But yeah, she really was not the most popular character in number 9 at that time. Eventually, though, Fizz listens to her, and this is when she takes her off to Birmingham to the PRU there to try and sort her out. Didn't work, her out, but it helped Jen McAlpine have a baby at least. Anyway, one of the Hope puts Cerberus on a train to Rochdale before she leaves to Birmingham as well, just to cause another bit of mayhem. And this is when we had the scene of Roy and Evelyn going out looking for Cerberus in the woody. And this was an early example of look at the great comedy that Maureen Lipman can do in this role, and look what a great duo Evelyn and Roy make. Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, Roy is such a Corrie stalwart, and for anybody to be put in regular scenes with Roy, that's gonna up their profile massively. Not that Maureen Lipman needed a profile upping, but they were able. These two very, very talented actors were able to get some, and are still able to get some really, really subtly nuanced and funny comedy scenes together. And this one where they're out in the woody and a policeman comes over and says, "What are you two up to?" and they get accused of dogging, and Roy's I can't remember what the lines are, but there's a few unintended double entendres from Roy that ends up getting the policeman very suspicious as to their reasoning for being out in a car first thing in the morning. Anyway, Tyrone eventually tracks down Cerberus and returns into Evelyn on Christmas Day in a joyous and heartwarming moment.
Was it a montage? Was it a Christmas montage?
No.
Was it a Christmas miracle?
No, yes. It was a Christmas miracle. 2019, Gemma, what's gone on with Evelyn that year?
So this is when we sort of learn about her neighbour and friend.
Yeah, there's a lot
James Woodgate.
There's a lot of mystery still surrounding Evelyn in the first few months. We kind of hear a little bit about Cassie, and then it's like how's she getting on with the neighbours. But early 2019 is delving a little bit deeper into the character's history.
This character is a very weird character because he got a lot more backstory than even some normal new characters get. He's an old friend of hers. I think they were neighbours. Mm-hmm. He was in a wheelchair. He has been confined to a wheelchair at a certain point. He wasn't always in a wheelchair.
Am I remembering right? Is he like about Tyrone's age?
Maybe. Mm. His parents were killed in a car accident when he was 16, and so she has this kind of idea that she wants to keep an eye on him and make sure he's okay. And they have a very close relationship. And they go on holiday together. And obviously this character has just been created in order to give Maureen Lipman an excuse as to why she's not in Coronation Street from time to time.
I think, every now and then any characters might disappear off screen for a while. And sometimes it's not through the actor's choice. It's just because the writers haven't got anything to do with them. Sometimes, they go off on maternity. Sometimes they'll have a holiday. But I think probably out of everybody on the cast, Maureen Lipman is the one that's disappeared on the most regular basis in her 5 years, because she's like going off to do her theatre.
And extracurricular activities. I don't imagine that she would be interested in doing Coronation Street if she wasn't allowed to do these.
No, she's not the sort of person that you say no to, I imagine.
I can't imagine saying that to her. So this James, he crops up every now and then. I don't know how he's the only neighbour who likes her.
Well, she's fairly unlikable.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that I don't know whether we've seen much of James since that very first appearance. It feels like we got to know him in those early days, and since then he's just been the off-screen bloke that's been talked about, that Evelyn goes to visit every time that that Maureen Lipman feels the urge to go and tread the board somewhere, you know? It's even just recently, they were supposed to have been staying with him, her and Cassie, haven't they? But I don't think we've seen him. I wasn't particularly that enthralled with him as a character, so
no,
I don't mind that he exists, but I'm glad that he wasn't brought into the show as a regular. I didn't particularly get on with him, but he was important for revealing the truth about Tyrone's background, wasn't he?
Yes. So Tyrone is suspicious of Evelyn and James and goes to see him. And this character, James, mentions the truth that it was actually Evelyn who dumped Tyrone at the police station, not Cassie.
Yeah, he didn't. He thought that Tyrone knew that, and he just mentions it offhandedly.
Like, why are you here? She dumped you at the police station. Take the hint.
Yeah,
in a very casual way like that.
Yeah, exactly. There was a big mystery around that time about, Evelyn knows something. What's her secret? And then this was the big reveal that she was the one that did the dumping. Which maybe now, I don't know, does that not particularly stand out as an especially jaw-dropping moment? Cassie dumping her is Evelyn. Is Cassie dumping him? Is Evelyn dumping him?
If you're Tyrone.
Maybe.
Because it means your mum didn't abandon you after all. It was horrible Evelyn.
Mm. And you'd been lied to, which Tyrone is still a bit narked about. Yeah. So
Tyrone gets really upset and tells her, "Don't bother coming back when you come back from Europe. Just stay away." But she comes back a few weeks later. She's been in Parisian prison.
Bit of a tongue twister for you there.
Thanks. She refused. What's prison in French?
Oh God,
you don't know.
Prison.
No.
I think that's another word. I don't know.
So she refused to pay her taxi fare and she got dumped in prison.
Yeah, there's a scene where when she comes back, she comes in through the back door and I think she's got a headscarf on then and dark glasses. Like she's
a criminal.
Yeah, sneaking in through the back door.
As Tyrone was the one, he had to pay €700 to get her out. And so he says, you stay, you work at the garage to pay off your debt to me. So she then gets hired or offered a job at the corner shop because she spots a shoplifter, and Dev says, "Look, you work here. You're so great at spotting people stealing things. I'm going to India for 2 months.
That takes one to know one."
With Ardy and Asher, so look after the shop.
She worked at the garage for a couple of weeks, and this was so early in her time on the show. I was excited to see, what they're going to do with her. You know, when new characters come in, it's like who they're going to be paired off with, where they're going to live, who they're going to work with. And it was kind of fun seeing her working at the garage for a bit. I think there was a story where she finds a pair of knickers on the back of a seat, and somebody's not going to pay for their MOT, and she's like, "Well, look what I found," and he kind of blackmails him into it, something like that. But it's funny because she's always given these customer-facing jobs when she is anything but the perfect saleswoman. But that's what makes her the perfect character to put there, really.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
As a viewer.
So Roy has got to rewire the cafe, and he hires a cowboy builder. It's very shoddy work. It goes wrong again. So Roy moves into number 9. I don't know why he does that because he.
Well, no, the flat the whole place needs rewiring.
Well, he moves in with them.
Yeah.
And Tyrone has been teasing Evelyn about fancying Roy, and she's not having any of it. And she accuses Roy of giving her smouldering looks and accusing him of rearranging the things in the kitchen so that she has to bend over to get them so he can look at her bum. And she also goes on a rampage to try to get revenge on this builder, puts up posters and saying nobody should trust him, goes on the radio to moan about him.
Yeah.
Dev comes back from India and fires Evelyn because he hears she's been using the shop as a base of operations for her gambling ring. She's been betting against Steve and Tim about Weddy County, and she has been She's been insider trading.
She has totally been insider trading. Yeah, she. Tell you what, if it was her and Debbie, that had overheard these
Oh, yeah.
Newton people at the moment, as of the time of recording in August 2023. Evelyn would be like, yeah, buying those shares.
Bye. Yeah. So,
this has just made me I want Evelyn and Debbie to go into business together. They'd be like the most crooked business.
Good.
Yeah, like these power business women going, yeah.
So many were a circle, baby.
Like that, do they ever have scenes together? I don't know.
What happens if you cut so many corners?
Get a circle.
You have a circle of trust. We're both in it. Me and you, Evelyn. So anyway, she's getting all this information from James Bailey about the players' fitness, and she translates that into information to boost her chances of getting good bets. And Dev is not happy with this, but when he sees that the profits were up while he was away, he reinstates her, and that's where she's worked ever since.
Yeah. She's been, permanently at the shop since then. I can't remember who else was at the shop around that. There's like Sophie Webster. Had she recently departed the shop? I can't really remember.
No, I don't remember that.
But I also remember at the time when the idea was put out there that Evelyn would be the new shop assistant, and some people like us were thinking, oh, that's going to be brilliant to have somebody so brusque as Evelyn being there, supposedly being nice to the customers. That's going to create some great comedy moments. And other people saying, no, how could anybody who hates other human beings quite so much as her, why would anybody employ her in that sort of role? Well, I think it's turned out pretty well, actually.
Yeah, I think it's turned out well.
I think we were right.
Yeah. So, I mean, most shops hire at least one person who's terrible with customers as a joke, don't they?
Yeah.
Make everyone else look good. So, Bernie and Michael have a bit of a scam going on with Gemma and her Wii, that they're using it to make fake pregnancy tests. And
Bernie's collecting all of Gemma's pregnant... No, she doesn't. She collects the actual Wii, doesn't she? And then they buy a load of pregnancy tests, dip it in them, and then they sell it on eBay, which is very entrepreneurial. But Evelyn finds out about it, doesn't she?
And she gets hush money.
Yeah.
The way you said it is like Gemma and Bernie and Michael were taking pregnancy tests from Gemma, like without the Wii. It was like Gemma's like,
no,
let me just check. Nope, still pregnant. Damn.
No, they buy some blank ones. Is that what you call them?
Blanky
New
blanks.
ones, fresh ones, and
Yes.
Disgusting.
Yeah, bucket of Wii. She barricades herself into Bessie Street headmistress's office to try and get Hope reinstalled. There was
reinstalled. She was fitting in the classroom. Yeah, the school.
Tyrone forgot to reinstall her.
Yeah, Hope comes back from Birmingham expecting to then go back to Bessie Street, but Tyrone, he only had one job to do.
Typical.
To get her signed up to go back in.
Men
he
don't
forgets,
do anything you tell him.
Yeah, Evelyn barricades herself in. I think when they're talking to the headmistress, she also turns the waterworks on as well.
Yeah, I mean, it works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For some reason. Fizz returns from Birmingham later in the year, and she brings Hope's favourite TA, Jade, with her. Mysterious.
Jade,
Evelyn does not trust Jade, reckons that she's there because she fancies Tyrone. So she tries to make Jade go out with Michael.
Yeah, well, Evelyn was right to not trust Jade, although she was quite far off the mark as to what it was about her that was quite so dodgy.
What the real reason was.
Yeah. So 2020, of course, is the year of COVID, and that meant that anybody over the age of 70 couldn't appear on Coronation Street.
I don't know what the cut-off point was, but a lot
it was round about then. Yeah,
so all vulnerable people who could have a bad time.
Yeah. It was old and vulnerable, weren't able to go to Corrie for a while. Yes.
And everybody, hardly anyone was in it except a pair of seals in a bathtub.
So it did mean that between July and October 2020, we didn't have any Evelyn, and it was a real shame because 2020 was the year of her romance with Arthur's story. So we'd been through a whole year at this point of Evelyn, and we'd found that she was very loyal to her family, and she would defend them if they were under attack, and she was suspicious of Jade, and she had softened quite a lot after her very prickly first impressions of her. But what we didn't know really about Evelyn was what she was like as a romantic partner. So in comes Arthur, who we mentioned earlier, was her beau in, when was it, early 60s, I think? Or was it even earlier than that? I can't remember. But he'd gone off to Canada. I don't remember.
3 or 5. It wasn't 69, like I said.
No. He went off to Canada, and she missed the plane, but he went off thinking... What? Boat. He went off thinking that she had dumped him, but actually she hadn't. So they happened to bump into each other at the vet's practice in early 2020.
This is the sort of drama that used to happen when before mobile phones, kids.
I know. So he's there with his dog, and they recognise each other, and she gets a little that little heart of her gets a fluttering, doesn't it? And again, she, like we said earlier, she's the sort of person that absolutely does not have her heart on her sleeve, but she still does have emotions and feelings. So she kind of drops into the conversation. Oh yeah, I sometimes like to walk Cerberus round this sort of area. You know, maybe we'll bump into each other.
8:30 and 9 o'clock on a weekday morning.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of hoping that he will take the hint and that they'll meet up, and he does. So they meet up in Victoria Gardens, and this is when he learns the truth about why she didn't come to Canada with him, and she just missed the boat/plane. Maybe it was one of those seaplanes. Maybe. We also learn that he's moved back to Weatherfield at this point, so he's old, free and single, just like Evelyn.
Old, free and single. That sounds like that sounds like a British comedy film starring Sean Bean, funded by the National Lottery.
It'd have all of the greats, wouldn't it? You know, with Judi Dench and
yes, and
is that I'm thinking Helen Mirren.
Helen Mirren be in it, yeah, and they'd all be competing.
Maggie Jones
for the hand of Patrick Stewart or something.
Anyway, so
write it. We want a cut.
Those two are friends at this point. There's also a couple of... We get an idea about Evelyn's more militant side in 2020 because there's a protest at the town hall with Mary, Nina and Toya when they're having a go at the council for them refusing to set a zero carbon target. Evelyn joins in with them in that and gets herself arrested.
Not very sexy, is it?
No.
It's not like saving a newt or...
Is that a sexy thing to do, save newts?
Well, it's something you can...
Let's tying yourself to railing. Some people might find incredibly sexy.
Zero carbon targets. It's like... No.
Anyway, Tyrone...
It's not exactly a flirty protest, is it?
Tyrone, who has, remember, already turfed... I don't even know what I was trying to say then. Who's already teased Evelyn for fancying Roy, now turns his sights on Arthur and is like, you're going to you and Arthur. You kind of really just gentle ribbing, not in a mean way, but Evelyn saying, no, we're not dating. We're not friends. We're just friends. Sorry. This is when we saw
the makeover.
The makeover scene that you mentioned earlier. That's right, where Claudia. Oh, I wish that they'd been able to share more scenes together because, who was it? Arula Lenska and Maureen Lipman, they shared a flat together in Media City, didn't they? And then they were both on the show together. And you know, speak about lovies, both of the pair of them together, they were brilliant.
Can you just imagine what that flat
But
we
just, oh gosh,
just full of like precious...
dripping with gold.
Gold everywhere and silks and like exotic... Chinese vases on ornately carved wooden tables.
I imagine they had like a champagne fridge like Patsy's and Absolutely Fabulous as well.
Yeah, probably like, yes, darling, that's a champagne fridge, but we don't put Prosecco in it. Where do we put Prosecco? Straight in the recycling. That's right.
So they had that great scene where Claudia does her up and Evelyn's like, oh, how dare you made me look like a chihuahua in a wind tunnel.
But she secretly
likes it. And I love the actors on Corrie who can give these really subtle little looks. And after Evelyn slings Claudia out, she's there kind of looking at herself in the mirror. And she just has this slightest of smiles to show. Yeah,
they're so good, aren't they? They make it look so easy.
I know. Anyway, so they carry on not dating in inverted commas, and that leads to a caravanning trip later in the year. I think this is probably the post-COVID now.
I mean, to be fair, caravanning can be quite unromantic.
Yeah. Well, she's in the caravan, he's in a tent because, you know, no hanky-panky or anything. But she insists on going home after a day, saying that she had a hole in her mattress. And I think that maybe she just gets a little bit like, oh, I don't want to, getting a bit too close here. I don't want to get too Yeah, I don't want to
let him into my heart.
Yeah, exactly. But she eventually realises that she could be missing out on a chance to be happy, and she rearranges the trip, this time making it a whole week long. But unfortunately for her, Arthur at this time is the one who gets scared off by the idea.
Or does he? Something else is going on with Arthur.
He has a dark secret, doesn't he?
He does.
Yeah. Turns out he's still married.
Toya.
Yeah, Toya sees him in the neurology department in the hospital one day. This leads Evelyn to believe that he's secretly ill and he's been keeping his tragic secret from her. But no, it's another type of soap revelation that we've got here. He's actually married. His wife Beryl is there. She suffered a stroke 4 years ago and has since been in a completely vegetative state. She's unresponsive, but he is he's a dutiful husband, and he's not gonna, he keeps on visiting her, and he finds it very difficult to go along with the idea that he could have other women in his life. It was very much. It reminded us of the time of the Kershaw story, didn't it? Where Eileen's dating Paul. Yeah, and he's got his wife who's got Alzheimer's, and Eileen's early onset Alzheimer's, and Eileen's like, I can't go out with you if you're married, and he's like, no, she's not my wife, she's not the woman I married anymore.
Difficult, very difficult. See, this is where the twist would come in my movie.
Yeah.
Old, Free and Single, because he's not, is he?
No, he's not.
This writes itself.
Well, it's already been written and it's been on Coronation Street.
Are you saying that when you pick a plot wholesale completely out of some other piece of fiction, it's not writing it yourself?
Yeah, you can't just make a film out of a Coronation Street plot, unfortunately.
That's not fair.
Anyway, Evelyn's livid at him because she'd been led to believe that he was a widower, and she says, right, don't want to see you ever again, we're over.
Don't want to see you again.
And then, so,
What?
2020, there were lots of things,
wrong.
There are many what-ifs in all forms of entertainment, and Corrie had to put everything on hold for a while, and they had to have the oldies not come in the show, so I can only imagine what might have been with this couple's romance. But I guess that Paul had a 1 year contract on the show, and he only wanted it to be 1 year, but it just felt at the end of it like, he just didn't get enough of them, because by the beginning of 2021 he was out again.
Yeah, Paul Copley, he's been in lots of things.
Yeah.
What was he? What was
Downton? He was the farmer.
Downton Abbey. He was the Oh, that was a sweet relationship. He strikes me as the sort of guy who's like, I'll do it for a year and then I'm off. But
he did it
did
so
all this
well.
stuff happen before or after COVID?
The bit with Beryl was after COVID.
Okay. Right, so in 2021, Maureen...
This is when we had lockdown 2.
Lipman was absent from February to May because of COVID. And so we see Evelyn, when she returns to our screen...
No, this was before.
Before she goes... As I'm said,
of course you know.
I know all of this because I've extensively researched, and I also watched it at the time.
You're not just reading the notes off and making it into a podcast as you go, are you? No.
That would be irresponsible. Evelyn discovers that Beryl's died when he comes out of the florists with a bunch of flowers that are like Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, which is a really long floral tribute that they don't normally do because it costs a lot of money.
Well, she thinks that the flowers are for her, but he's actually putting them on her grave, so that's a bit awkward moment.
Poor Beryl.
But it got them talking again.
Yeah, she apologises to him, and he says, I'm going back to Canada, actually, because it's actually cool, and I want to go to the great redwood forests and drink maple syrup directly.
Got to do both of those all the
from the trunk.
Many years I've been living there all this time.
I know that we have Tim Hortons here, but it's not the same. He says, why don't you come with me and experience the joy of Timbits? And she's like, I've got Tim here, and it's right a pain in the arse.
Oh, that was so sad.
It was really sad. It was like
they were really great couple. They worked so well together.
They were.
And a tiny bit of me was saying, yes, Evelyn, go with him.
Please,
because
be free
by this
and
time
happy.
I was such an Evelyn fan, but I don't want her to go.
I know.
And it. Even now, like I was saying earlier, is the producers worried that she's just going to say, I've had enough of that. She's one that, for me, every year when I'm doing my predictions about what's going to happen in this year, I think, is this going to be the year that Maureen Lipman leaves? I can't believe she's still here 5 years later.
I love her. I want her to stay forever.
She's not going to say in any interviews like, I'm going to go soon, but she doesn't seem, honestly, to have any particular desires to leave the show. She seems pretty happy to be settled here.
Well, I mean, she's, like we said before, her first husband was incredibly involved in Coronation Street, so you could say that it's kind of part of her life, and she was in it before. I mean, you don't want to speculate, but
I can't remember whether I've got this written down at the bottom of the notes later.
You're eating an ice cube.
I'm eating an ice cube at the same time. She says that, like, when she got the job on Coronation Street, like,
which one?
There was this one. I think there was like a picture of him, and at the time when she was getting the call or something, I can't remember. We'll bring it up later if it comes up.
Her so much.
But I think it is almost it's almost like it was fate. I'm destined to be on this program, and great. Anyway, so Arthur's gone. Evelyn's left alone. She'd just been able to open her heart to someone.
I belong in Weatherfield now. I'm not going with you. She then goes on holiday again. This must have been for COVID.
To get him out of her system.
With old James. And when she comes back, Tyrone has essed the bed.
He did ess the bed, didn't he?
He has left Fizz for Alina, and never Fizz's biggest fan was Evelyn, but she understands right is right, wrong is wrong, and Tyrone is a dirty dog.
I thought this was a great bit of character development to show how much she has moved on from her initial misgivings about Fizz.
Yeah, she's not blindly, you said before she's loyal. She's not blindly supportive of everything that everyone in her family does, and it would have been a mistake really to have supported Tyrone in this, because it was clearly a bad idea for him to ever think that he and Alina could have made a go of it. So Evelyn immediately takes Fizz's side, and she but she's also very instrumental in mediating this couple, making sure that they stay on speaking terms for the girl's sake, and tries to make Fizz go easier on him. Because Fizz tries to get quite vengeful.
She's initially very vindictive, as you might be. And Evelyn's like, no, we need to keep you on good terms.
Be civil here because you're family, and
well, also
no matter what
probably
happens,
this
won't last forever.
Exactly.
You can scoop him up on the rebound.
And then bugger off to Norwich.
Why not? Norwich, yeah, why not? She slips on some salad dressing at the shop, and she hurts her ankle and tries to sue Dev for criminal negligence. But
I didn't like this story.
Bernie, was Bernie dating Dev at this point?
I think possibly. I can't remember the ins and the outs of Dev and Bernie's romantic history. But yeah,
this injury.
Yeah, she has Bernie as her slave, doesn't she, for a bit, so that she doesn't sue Dev, and
she gets caught out.
In a way, it kind of fits with her character, because she was, especially in her early years, which this wasn't. She was a tea leaf. She was quite sneaky and devious, and she wouldn't. She was the sort that would lie and make things up for her own gain. But I think by the time we'd reached, mid 2021, when this was, in my head, she'd kind of moved away from that, and she was more of a wholesome character, and it didn't quite feel right that she would be taking Dev for a ride here. It was kind of funny, but.
Well, yeah, she's just naughty, isn't she? She gets caught out. Dev sees her taking her washing in, and so he's not happy to carry on, and she gets kind of taken to task a bit and has to give it up. Now, Hope accidentally sets Alina's house on fire, and Alina has a miscarriage. And
complete, coincidental. It didn't cause the miscarriage.
And Alina's a bit annoyed because it turns out everyone was like, oh, yeah, Hope does that every now and then.
Oh yeah, that's right. Alina didn't know that Hope was an arsonist, did she?
I can't believe we've mentioned Alina a few times. We haven't even done her voice yet.
I don't know. I'm not the one that does her
I
voice.
know. I'm not going to do it because it's a sad situation. So Evelyn makes Fizz see that Hope needs to face the consequences of her action, and she gets given a youth rehabilitation order. And now she doesn't set anything on fire.
I can only wonder, what Hope would be like if Evelyn hadn't been around for the past 5 years. Because, I love Fizz to bits, but she's definitely a very permissive mother, isn't she? Yeah, she'll go, oh no, it's not her fault.
It's not her fault. She sets fire to things.
She's very slow to believe that her daughter would ever do anything wrong. And she's like, oh, she's just a little girl. But luckily Evelyn has been there to say, no, she is just a little girl, but she needs to have consequences for her actions. I think possibly it's also I can't remember like Fiz's upbringing. I don't know whether Scylla was particularly harsh on her, or whether it was more a case of she just didn't have anything to do with her at all. But Fiz wants to show her daughter love in the same way that she wasn't shown love, and Evelyn's kind of like, you can show love by
tough love.
Yeah, Evelyn is absolutely a tough love kind of woman.
Well, everything that Evelyn does, well, not everything, but quite a lot of things she does with her family is kind of for the best. Like, not, she's not supporting Tyrone when she, it would be quite easy to take his side, but she's trying to support Fiz because she can see that there might be a chance they could get back together, and everybody's taking sides is not going to work out. She doesn't let Hope get away with things, and she's quite happy to be the bad guy if she has to be.
Yes, if it for the greater good. In 2022. 2022. This is when Phil with two L's appears on the scene,
and Mimi.
And
Coco.
Mimi. So I think Phil had actually shown up in late 2021, but I think it was early 2022 that things sort of started moving quite quickly for the two of them, and they got engaged with Fiz and Phil. And Evelyn thinks that actually this Phil's a nice bloke. Yes, she liked the idea of Tyrone and Fiz getting together, but she
could see that Phil was rich.
Phil was had a nice big house.
And it's unfortunate he lives in Cardiff.
But yeah, she's quite supportive of that relationship, but she doesn't get on with Mimi, Phil's mum. And Mimi had been in at the previous Christmas, hadn't she? Which was round about when Phil's birthday was. And I think for whatever reason, Evelyn wasn't in the show at that time. She was off doing her Festback act again. And it was a real missed opportunity that we didn't get a chance to see these two battleaxes locking horns. But that all changed in mid-2022 when Mimi shows up again ready for the wedding, and they had some brilliant scenes together.
Oh, they did, yeah, because they ended up doing karaoke.
They did end up singing "I Knew Him So Well" at the karaoke after Fiz and Phil's
Magnificent.
wedding. Magnificent. There was something like Mimi accused Cerberus of tripping her up.
Oh, when she ended up bedridden.
Yeah, something like that. It was great stuff. Anyway,
because the thing is about Mimi is that she was exactly the sort of person that Evelyn just dislikes on principle. Very frivolous, over the top, middle class.
Yeah.
Probably not northern. I can't remember. I assume Mimi was.
I can't remember where she was from. She just had a posh voice, didn't she?
Anyway, posh up north,
wedding takes place. Phil and Fiz tie the knot, but literally at the wedding reception, Fiz realises that she's made a mistake, goes back to Tyrone. Evelyn finds this out and kind of
put your time in.
Helps engineer them back together again.
Just think about this, right? Fiz should have put her time in, get at least a year. She could have spent, if she timed it properly, she could have spent as part of that year in Norwich, couldn't she?
She could. Yeah.
Milking Phil for all he's worth, get divorced after a year, take half the Welsh property.
This reminds me, and I've purposely not wanted to mention Blanche yet because the comparisons will surely be drawn. Maybe that's something to talk about later on this episode. But this does remind me a little bit of Blanche engineering and playing Cupid a little bit with Deirdre and Ken in the when she came back in 1999. But she wasn't always completely on Deirdre's side. She would say to Ken, "Oh yeah, you know what Deirdre's like.
Yeah,
she'd be a difficult one." And so anyway,
I mean that's my biggest regret in life, not having children. I can't meddle. I'd be a class.
Got no one to meddle with, would you? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so there's a story a bit later on last year where she tries out for the Weatherfield Dramatic Society's production of Roxana, but doesn't get the part. Which
mileage may vary on this one.
Yeah, but
I thought it was funny.
I thought it was quite funny, but I know lots of people didn't get on with that story.
There were lots of spats, weren't there, about this?
Yes, there were. And then also late that year, we have Evelyn volunteering at the charity shop, the Gregory Pope Foundation. but she gets fed up with the woman who's running it. I can't remember what she was doing, but I've got a vivid memory of Evelyn holding a cricket bat, looking like and brandishing it like she's going to go and whack this woman and who's in the stock room, and then she's like, no, puts it down and decides to go off on another extended stay with James. And this was her going off to play, to do a one-woman play, Rose, in the Hope Mill Theatre in Manchester and in London as well.
Isn't it interesting that the Gregory Pope Foundation charity shop had more scenes before it moved to the precinct?
Yeah,
I was totally expecting to see a lot of Gregory Pope shop scenes when they moved to the precinct.
It's because it was actually filmed in a charity shop, wasn't it?
In a charity shop, and they haven't got a set for it, but they've got an exterior now.
Yeah, they've got an exterior, but not a set interior. And what they either have to do is build a set that looks identical to the charity shop, or wait long enough that nobody remembers or cares about what the charity shop looked like, and then do it then. Well, but it's honestly, it's rife for opportunity.
Charity shop's brilliant.
Yeah, I can't remember. I lose track of who's working there. Like, do Roy and Evelyn and Nina maybe volunteer there sometimes now? I don't know, but there are it's perfect opportunity for some great comedy scenes, and they've not gone there yet.
There's so much you could do with a charity shop.
Yeah, when they built the precinct earlier this year, when they opened it earlier this year, we were asking people, so are we gonna see more of the charity shop? And everyone was very like, oh yeah, maybe. Yes, we'll get it eventually. Yeah, non-committal about it, but I hope that it happens some.
Well, there's so many great things you can have. You know, you get, you can have people dropping crap off, people buying each other's stuff. What happened with Hayley's coat? I forgot.
Yasmin happens to find it in the end.
Yeah, that's right.
Because Evelyn got involved in that story, didn't she? Because it was around this time that the romance between her and Roy started to flicker.
Right.
And Evelyn seems to be developing feelings for Roy, but because of what Evelyn's like, she's not really wanting to commit and outright say it. Roy's obviously not going to say his true feelings about anything like that, or even want to admit to himself if he does have any feelings for Evelyn. But yeah, it wasn't Evelyn the one that was responsible for the coat going missing. I can't remember. Somebody.
But there was a load of Nina. It was a load of boxes, and she
ships them out. So Evelyn tries to help find this coat, but in the end, earlier this year, in fact, it was Yasmin that solved it, and it was like, oh well, that's that.
I can see. I don't know where they're going with this romance triangle, love. What's it called? Love triangle.
Yeah, romance triangle.
Sorry, I forgot. Between Evelyn, Roy, and Yasmin, because obviously Stu's now got his nose out of joint, and Yasmin's trying to make.
I don't know where they're going, but I know the speed they're going at, and it's glacial.
Yeah. Watch out, Titanic. I think there could be some great scenes with Roy, Evelyn and Yasmin all volunteering at Gregory Pope at the same time. All the passive aggressive comments between Yasmin and Evelyn, and Roy just not picking up on any tension.
Yeah. Every now and then this year they've kind of teased us with that story, but they seem to be at the moment leaning more towards Yasmin and Stu with the whole Eliza's parents and everything story. And I couldn't be much less interested in that, but the Evelyn, Roy, Yasmin love triangle, that has got a lot more mileage in it. I don't want Roy and Yasmin to end up together.
I don't want any of them to end up together. I'd rather have Evelyn and Yasmin run off together, to be honest.
I don't know. I go back and forth about whether I would like Evelyn and Roy to be a couple. And it was the same when Roy started dating Kathy and was getting married to her.
I was very into that.
We were both into that, I think. I think a lot of people weren't. And even then, that was only, 2 or 3 years after Hayley had died. I mean, it's 10 years now since Hayley's been no longer with us.
I don't think everybody needs to have a partner.
They don't. But equally, to say, well, this guy's got to be celibate for the rest of his life because Roy and Hayley were such a classic couple. We all love
Roy and Hayley so much.
Yeah.
But you can say, he had one great love and that was it.
Oh, yeah, of course,
and there are people like that. Your granddad was like that.
Yeah. But I just think that David Neilson and Maureen Lipman do shine together so much in scenes.
But I'd rather have them as friends. I just can't see them romantically, and it's not because I've got some kind of ageist what's the word, prejudice against old people being in relationships, because I loved her and Arthur.
I'd prefer her and Arthur.
I don't want to lose a friendship.
I just love it
when they're very difficult to come by.
I love it when Maureen sort of opens up a little bit and shows a little bit of
vulnerability,
of tenderness and vulnerability, exactly. And like when we haven't even got to 2023 yet, but there was a bit earlier this year where she like puts her hand on Roy's hand. Anyway, that was basically it. I mean, she's gone off to Maureen Lipman's off on a play again for the end of 2022. But what we have since come to know about where the character was is that she has got in contact with Cassandra, Cassie, her daughter again, who has recently moved to Bristol, junkie again, addicted to pregabalin.
I don't know how you say this.
Pregabalin. Doesn't matter. Evelyn ends up helping to get her clean, returns to Weatherfield on Christmas Day for Fizz and Tyrone's wedding, but she keeps what she's been up to a secret.
Well, it's a bit of a bummer, isn't it, to turn up at someone's wedding on Christmas Day and be like, sorry, I've been dealing with a drug addict.
Yeah, she's decided not to tell Tyrone about this because she thinks it's for his own good that he doesn't get in touch with his birth mum.
Well, there's a lot of complicated feelings between Cassie and Evelyn, which I absolutely adore.
Yeah.
How grey.
We are currently in the middle of
loving it. Absolutely loving it. So in 2023, Evelyn was worrying that Tyrone's got a secret lover on the side because he has made a secret assignation to a hotel. So she goes with Roy, I think, to spy on him. And it turns out that he's meeting up with this blonde who's secretly Fizz in disguise.
Yeah, that was wasn't like Tyrone talking about getting friendly with somebody at the community centre or playgroup or something, I can't remember, and Evelyn suspects that he's dating her, but it turns out that it's just some sexy role play with Fizz. That was a great scene. It was in the first few weeks of the year, I think. Yeah. Seeing Jennifer Calpine in their bleached blonde wig and being caught in their sexy act, it was brilliant. And and they're like, oh, we're just trying to spice things up a bit. And Evelyn says, if I want spice, I'll have a chicken danzak.
Yeah, that was really funny. Evelyn gets disappointed when Ray's
not in it anymore.
He doesn't turn up for her 77th birthday party because he's rescuing Carla from a flat fire, but she doesn't know that at the time.
Hang on a minute, 77th? I thought it's not 77th. I think it's 73rd. Am I thinking of someone else? Doesn't matter. Her birthday.
It's her birthday.
Yeah.
Cerberus falls ill. He gets diagnosed with kidney failure. One of the saddest episodes in recent memory. We're all such black-hearted, evil creatures that we can only be moved by a dog dying.
This really was one of the most moving scenes in Coronation Street that it's had for years and years.
It's because Evelyn is such a prickly customer.
Yes, Cerberus was very rarely not by her side for all of these stories that we've just talked about, but we haven't mentioned him because there weren't really any Cerberus stories, were there? Didn't have a storyline of his own.
I heard that's why he quit.
But you knew that Evelyn did have great affection for this dog.
Well, the thing is about this dog is that she could love him unconditionally and he loved her, and there was nothing between them that was going to spoil anything, you know. With Cassie, they both let each other down at various points. You can see where this comes from. At the time, we didn't know about her relationship with Cassie, but the fact that Evelyn was watching her daughter, you know, struggle with drug addiction again after she thought she'd helped her, and this darkness that her life just seems cursed by. The fact that she had this dog, this kind of pure, precious, innocent soul who loved her no matter what, and then she has to say goodbye to him.
Yeah.
That makes it even more sad in retrospect. And it's sad anyway when your dog dies, and you know when you get a dog or a pet that one day you'll say goodbye to them.
I think it literally is the saddest animal death on Coronation Street. I mean, people remember Chesney and Schmeichel dying.
I think that was sad as well.
That was really sad because we seen Chesney with Schmeichel ever since he was a pup. But even though we'd had
Chesney was a pup.
Well, he was a bit of a mucky pup as well, wasn't he? But yeah, even though we'd only known Evelyn with Cerberus for a shorter amount of time, because Maureen Lipman was such a brilliant actress,
Well, yeah,
I think that the performance that she gave was just phenomenal.
Well, she...
saying goodbye to, her Prince of Weatherfield, I think she says, and she's there when she's like, because Tyrone, he kind of chickens out, doesn't he? He's like, Nan, I can't be here. But he gives a few sweet lines like, go and find Monica for me. And Evelyn says to Cerberus, don't go after that Monica. I hear that she's a right
flea-ridden.
I can't remember what she said. I thought she's a right crazy dog. But yeah, it was so sad, and I think universally that was a much loved
highly regarded
scene, and tears were shed nationwide.
I can imagine. When's the Soap Awards?
Soap Awards in June. So next year.
I can't remember when this was.
This was, I'm going to say, like February, March time.
So I'm not going to have any Soap Awards. But you just imagine how they do the awards is so funny, because they'll be like, best storyline, Lola's cancer death. Woo! Yay! And her like coughing and dying on a pillow. Cerberus dies in a veterinary hospital. Yay!
I don't know whether an animal's death has ever been nominated for a best soap exit, but
why not?
It can still.
Well, it was one of the most touching. The thing is about humans.
It was easily one of the best and most memorable moments this year on Coronation Street. I know,
but that's because first of all, it's because an animal is a blank slate. Right, when you see Cerberus, you're not projecting any thoughts about other dogs onto him. He hasn't done anything wrong. No. So there's something universal about your appreciation of a pet. Like you can project your feelings about your own animals onto this pet. Mm. And almost everybody's had a death of a pet, whether you're a younger child who's had a hamster die, or you're an older person who's seen countless dogs or cats die.
Yeah, I think lots of people were remembering.
You just project it. When you see somebody like... Everything gets very specific when it's a human. But with an animal, like I said, it's more of a blank slate. Mm. So everyone was crying. Twitter was aflame. It was one of the most tragic deaths of Coronation Street in recent times. And it unfortunately is a catalyst for Evelyn to fall out with Roy, because she blames him for Cerberus's condition with the kidney failure, because he had not seen Cerberus scoffing an Eccles cake, which he couldn't eat because of the raisins, which are toxic to dogs. And Roy hadn't noticed him scarfing this because he was on his phone, because he's got his phone addiction, which also nearly killed his niece Nina.
It was a bit of a weird story that didn't really go anywhere, wasn't it? Did it go to this? Was this the point of Roy's phone addiction, so he can fall out with Evelyn for a bit? I don't
know. Evelyn wins a free salsa lesson from Glenda.
Oh yeah, she does, doesn't she?
And so she invites Roy along.
This is when Roy was having his heart condition, do you remember? And he kind of backs out of the salsa lesson halfway through. We think it's just because he's a bit embarrassed and overwhelmed by it, but actually he's having a
heart attack,
a few tricky problems. Yeah.
Well, she makes up with Roy, and he's by his side when he has his stent fitted, and he has his friend Freddie. No, his friend
Marvin or something.
Who dies? Who bequeaths him a dog somehow, called Freddie, and Roy she has to look after Freddie while Roy's in hospital, and then she really gets besotted with this dog and will not admit it, and so they end up having to share ownership, because when Roy takes control of the dog, she's always saying, "Oh, Freddie doesn't like this, oh, Freddie doesn't like that," and in the end, Roy just lets her have it.
Well, no, they're sharing it still at the moment, aren't they?
You know what I mean.
But it's another one of these dogs or none of these pets that I don't feel we're going to see very much of on the show.
No, it's sad, because Cerberus
some pets
great.
Like Cerberus and Eccles are often there. They're just like frequently seen in scenes. But this Freddie, I can imagine, is going to be a dog that only shows up when needed. Even like David the dog, we've seen less and less now.
Some of it was COVID, but
yeah,
I think COVID's got a lot to answer to, because I think Coronation Street's used it as a way of smoothing some things out and making
they realise that things will still work if we don't have X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, makes life too complicated, and we're going to get rid of it. My question is Freddie Plummer or Freddie Cropper?
Cropper.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
I think Evelyn would have something to say about that. And is it Freddie Cropper Plummer? How would you?
Freddie Cropper's only a step away from Freddy Krueger, though, isn't it?
Do you think they could combine them and call him Freddie Cromer?
No. What happened next?
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Having a flight of fancy, if you don't mind. So at the same time, she's getting to fancy Roy more and more, but she won't admit it, and she gets jealous of him being friends with Yasmin. And then we have a blast from the past. Cassie turns up, and before this point, nobody had any idea who's watching Corrie that Cassie was still alive. Only Evelyn knew that she wasn't dead, and she pictures up. And Evelyn sees her and doesn't say anything.
It was a good episode when she came back, because like there were scenes of her sitting on like Maxine's bench, weren't there?
Well,
and
Cassie
Evelyn
was
sees
lurking,
her.
yeah.
Evelyn sees her lurking and doesn't go to her, but eventually she gets summoned to hospital because Cassie gets
Overdose.
Did Cassie try and go up to her and Evelyn didn't want anything to do with her? I can't remember, but
Well, there's a point where Cassie has a chance to speak to her, but she walks. It doesn't look like Evelyn's seen her, and she doesn't talk to her.
Well, they certainly get a chance to speak in hospital, don't they?
Well, Cassie gets to observe some things that Evelyn didn't want her to see, and she realises that she has a son that Evelyn is in touch with, and she did not know this. And there's a really fantastic scene between Claire Sweeney and Maureen Lipman at the hospital when Cassie is recovering from her overdose, and they have this bitter reunion, very long, very, very intense, really beautifully acted, beautifully written scene where they kind of fill us in as viewers as to what the deal is between these two women. And
we really get the idea that Evelyn is wanting to wash her hands of this daughter.
Well, she's
anything
fought.
that she ever does to help get her clean, and she'll just fall off the wagon
she's scared.
again.
She's scared she'll invest all this time and effort and love.
And she's only got so much time left.
Well, she's trying to protect her heart from breaking again after Cassie chooses drugs over her family. And Cassie's convinced that she will not do it again. But she's in hospital because of her overdose. She has grand aspirations that she can't really fulfill because she's got a medical condition whereby she's addicted. It's tough, and it's really well observed by Coronation Street. It's heartbreaking, but a very realistic portrayal of this dynamic between a drug addict and their loved one. So Evelyn is worried that Cassie's going to turn up and speak to Tyrone and spill the beans on the fact that she's not dead after all. And so Evelyn tries to get her clean. She agrees to help her. They go to stay in James's flat, and this is when Maureen Lipman has again gone to do another run of Rose, her play in the West End. So we get a little break there from the two of them.
Until a few weeks ago.
Till very recently when they come back to Weatherfield. Cassie's got a flat. They're both living there secretly, but Cassie reveals who she is to Tyrone. And Tyrone doesn't really appreciate Nana's help in hiding.
Yeah, and this is where we are at the moment, aren't we? Tyrone... Evelyn is not in Tyrone's good books.
Evelyn's been shunned. She's been sort of, what's the word? Where you push someone away.
Ostracised.
She's been ostracised to the junkie flat in the precinct, which has got two front doors as well. And it's Cassie who's living with Tyrone. The girls are in Norwich. Fizz is in Norwich, and it's just Tyrone.
Yeah, the girls are just in Norwich visiting Fizz, but I mean school's starting next week, so I guess they'll be back soon. And we're I don't know whether the Cassie story's running this week, but maybe in the next couple of weeks it's going to come back again, so we'll have the girls again. I've got no idea when Jenny McAlpine's back on the show as Fizz, but I'm looking forward to seeing how that all plays out. And it does seem at the moment, because we're seeing Cassie being very sneaky and still clearly on the drugs, it seems that Evelyn is right to distrust her.
This is a prescription drug that it can be... abused, which is what she's doing.
Yeah, but I think, I guess at the end of this, Well, I still haven't decided what I think, but Evelyn is definitely going to be proven right that she's a wrong un. But whether then Cassie decides to stay on and become the latest in Corrie's reformed mums, or whether she's going to disappear off again. Yeah, maybe she'll be a dead mum, or she'll disappear off to Bristol or South Africa again. Who can say?
I mean, they're very similar. I don't know how I'd pick between the two.
So that is everything, basically, that Evelyn's been getting up to over the past 5 years.
I mean, it's not quite 400 episodes, but we still managed to fill quite a lot of time. A lot of it was really just gushing with praise about Maureen Lipman.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that
I'm not ashamed of it. I'll do it again if I had the chance.
Yeah, and it's definitely taken some viewers a while to come round to her, and there are still some I know that really do not get on with her at all. They don't. I don't know whether it's they don't like the actress, they don't like the character. I think I'm seeing fewer accusations that she's just another Blanche, which was it's very easy to have said that back at the beginning, wasn't it? I mean, battleaxes have been a thing in Coronation Street since day one.
Yes. Blanche is just an Ena Sharples.
Blanche is Ena Sharples.
Well, you know what I'm saying? If you're going to go around saying so-and-so is like that, then there are only really about 10 characters on Coronation Street, just wearing different faces.
I mean, your battleaxes, you got Blanche, Ena, Sylvia.
Yeah.
There's not been loads.
Not loads. No, there aren't.
So maybe that's why the comparison.
What's her face in the wheelchair? Phyllis.
Yeah. No. Maud. Maud in the wheelchair.
And Phyllis.
Phyllis a bit of a battle axe. I mean, you can say that. Ivy a battle axe maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
But I would hope that over the years it's become more obvious that Evelyn isn't just Blanche Mark II. I think.
No, she's not. Blanche didn't have as much. Blanche was a secondary character in almost every story. She had a couple of plots, but Evelyn has got a lot more autonomy, and she's a bit more of she drives her own fortune. Yeah,
we had a few Blanche stories, you're right, where she was, as we were saying earlier, getting Deirdre and Ken back together.
I mean, she had that romance with Archie.
That was the main story
that was her biggest story.
Yeah, and I think that was the way that she dealt with that kind of is a clear way of showing how she is different from Evelyn. And Evelyn is so reluctant to say I love you, or to admit that she's got romantic feelings towards someone. But when Blanche was going out with Archie, she was kind of singing it from the rooftops, like, look who I've got parading this guy on my arm. And she was certainly not afraid to admit that she had these feelings. Whereas Evelyn, she's much more, she doesn't want to let people in. Blanche was often there just for the one-liners, for the scathing put-downs of people. And although we do get that from Evelyn, and I'm going to say, I mean, there are pages on the websites and Corrie books and everything that have got long lists of Blanche quotes, and I don't think that exists for Evelyn, and I don't think that could exist for Evelyn. I think that Blanche was such a gift to write for, and Maggie Jones did a brilliant job in delivering those Blanchisms that we all love. And they I think they've purposefully not done that with Evelyn, you know? There's not many memorable Evelyn quotes.
She's not a quipper.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing. No, she's not a quipper. Well, one of my favourite ones was she was saying to Tyrone one time, some people are an open book, some people are a closed book, you're more of a colouring book. But I think that she is different to Blanche. She's got a different. She's there as the one that's running the family. She's Tyrone and Fizz, although it's their house, they're the lead adults of the family. They're the head of the household. It feels like there's been a lot of steering by Evelyn, whereas Blanche was definitely more of a guest under the roof of Ken and Deirdre. You know. Yeah,
definitely. I think that Blanche is beloved. I love her so much. I think she was fantastic in the show. It doesn't take anything away from her to point out that Evelyn's more rounded, and when you're looking at Evelyn's character with Blanche, she lent herself more to the concept of picking out your favourite Blanche lines. Whereas Evelyn doesn't just have lines, she has a bit more depth and a backstory. Like, you know, Blanche was in the show from almost the beginning of Deirdre's character.
Yeah.
She went away.
Had a bit of a gap, but yeah.
But Blanche had a kind of a different relationship in the family. She was more like a what's the word I'm looking for? A dependent.
Mm.
Whereas I think Evelyn's a matriarch.
Yeah.
She's the one with the power in the family. Like, people defer to her. Fizz and Tyrone wish that they were in charge as much as, but you know, if Evelyn feels like she
rules the roost there
a little bit, yeah.
And I think that we see more of the tough love from Evelyn as well. Like, I could imagine that in some situations Blanche would be more like, "Oh, I can't be dealing with this," whereas Evelyn tackles things more head on.
Blanche was more vulnerable as well.
Yeah, she was. She was more vulnerable.
She was more physically frail too.
We did get some scenes, some really great heart-to-heart scenes with Blanche and Deirdre, with Blanche and Tracy. So it's not like she was only there for the comic relief, but it does feel like there is a bit more roundedness with Evelyn.
Blanche had a lot of depth. I don't want to take anything away from Blanche. I just wanted to point out the differences between these characters.
Yeah. I have found a few quotes from Maureen Lipman.
Well, there you go then.
You know, we like these quotes on the character profiles. This is what she has to say about Evelyn. Look, she goes and pays money for a cup of tea, and she could make it at home at Roy's. This is about whether she's going out with Roy or not.
She pays money for a cup of tea she could make at home in Roy's.
Yes. She's talking about whether anything's going to happen with her and Roy. Look, she goes and pays money for a cup of tea she could make at home in Roy's quite frequently, so she does want to spend time with him. That's quite interesting that she's even pointing that out, because pretty much everybody on the street go to Roy's to pay for a cup of tea so they could make at home. It doesn't mean they've all got the hots for him.
I was going to say, I think you're missing something here, Michael. Roy has obviously got some pheromones.
Yeah, clearly. I don't think Evelyn has the hots for Roy or him for her, though, she says. It's lukewarm at best, and I don't think she's going to get her vest off.
Or his.
But there are many forms of love. They're lonely people. She had the chance for romance with Arthur and sort of blew it. I think the stable door is shut and the horse has bolted. Now, this was in March this year that she said that, and it does feel that things have moved ahead a little bit more than then. I think that she does have the hots for him a little bit. I think she'd quite like the idea of a bit of companionship with Roy in more than just a platonic way.
I'm going to say something about her character.
Do it.
She has a child, so she's got her relationship with Tyrone and Fizz and the girls, and she has Cassie. But Cassie, Cassie doesn't belong to her. She's a grown woman, she's a grown child, and she has her own life.
Yeah.
And she's trying really hard to help Cassie, but Cassie can only help herself. And Fizz and Tyrone have sort of proven they don't need Evelyn. They've lived their lives without her. Tyrone's rejected Evelyn because of what happened with Cassie, and no doubt that Cassie and Evelyn are going to have their ups and downs. So it kind of makes sense to me that, based on what's happened recently, Evelyn might have a renewed sense of longing for some relationship of equality, where she needs the person as much as they need her, because for the best will in the world, the relationship she has with the sort of offspring of the family is more of she needs them more than they need her. Whereas in a romantic relationship, you have a more equal affection for one another. So she might have a yearning based on the fact that she has been rejected or feels a bit more distanced from the family that she does have.
She just doesn't like opening herself up to anybody.
Because she feels pain.
Yeah, she's still obviously
she's
got
lost Cerberus as well.
She's lost Cerberus. She's probably the memory of Harold dying of the brain hemorrhage, blaming Cassie on it, still coming back to her as well, and she doesn't want to be hurt again. And then, I'm guessing that from for the 40 years she didn't have anybody. It seems like she's become kind of one of these bitter old women that's like, oh, the world doesn't need me and I don't need them, and I can fight my own battles and live for myself for all this time.
She's been self-reliant as a necessity.
Yeah.
And so she's built up an armour.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And it's difficult to break that because you make yourself vulnerable and then your heart gets broken.
But now she's kind of, which is why she finds it so difficult to drop that armour. And in the case of Arthur, there's regret. So is she gonna not let that happen again? I don't know. I think I'd quite like to know a bit more about those missing 40 years. Like, do I even know what job she did?
Yeah, what was she? Yeah, what was her profession? Did she have a career?
That's a career worth of time, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's absolutely room for faces from the past, not just James, to come in and fill in some of those gaps.
Well, she's got a sister.
Yeah, she has got a sister.
Is she alive? We don't know. Does she have any other siblings? We don't know.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, there are only a certain number of years we're going to have Evelyn on the show. I mean, best will in the world, she's not still going to be on the show in 20 years' time, is she?
I don't know.
So
I don't know.
I'd like to have a fully rounded version of this classic current character.
That, you know, I'm going to say something. I don't know, you know, you don't ever want to, I'm going to touch wood. You don't ever want to write anybody off, but she could have a long time left if she wants to, if she's healthy. And honestly, I wonder, I'm going to say there are characters in the show now she's going to outlast easily.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them are incredibly disposable, and I think that she's not.
No, yeah. So, well, we will have to see, won't we? But she's certainly gone down well with viewers. She's got her awards since she's joined in. I remember when
it's the only reason she's in it. Surely.
In 2019, she got the Best Newcomer Award at the Inside Soap, and she made a great speech about how ridiculous that seemed for somebody of her background to be receiving a Best Newcomer Award. But she's also, from the Inside Soap Awards, got the funniest performance in 2021, the best comic performance in 2022. I'm guessing they just renamed the awards. And then also this year's British Soap Awards, she got best comedy performance as well. And I think the only reasons why she hasn't got more British Soap Awards is because that went on hiatus for a few years, didn't it? Over COVID.
So do you reckon...
It's a shame.
The Inside Soap Awards and the British Soap Awards, you think they're like best comic performance, and then British Soap's like best comedy performance, actually?
Yeah. What else have we got to say?
Oh, there was a load of complaints in 2021.
She has had complaints made against
She says things because, like, it just really winds me up when this happens. Characters on soaps are not there to always say the right thing and be goody two shoes. I think it's completely appropriate.
Sometimes she will absolutely say things that quite a few people are feeling, and so like this one here, which got the complaints.
Play therapy. She says
this is about hope.
She's had a play therapy, touchy-feely rubbish, new age, but she needs something long-term. Teach her right from wrong, is what Evelyn said.
275 people got annoyed about the fact that she called play therapy touchy-feely rubbish.
You're not supposed to listen to Evelyn saying something and go, she is my golden standard for educational values. I'm going to listen to Evelyn Plummer and reject the idea of play
But sometimes
therapy.
She will say things that people are thinking, and I think there are certainly a number of people who will think, well, no, children do need to be, you know, not shown the cane or anything, but...
If your child's setting fire to trampolines and killing unborn children, you might want to perhaps change the approach.
But anyway, that complaint was not upheld.
I don't think they... I want to know how often...
Podcast Ofcom.
Have we ever done a show about Ofcom complaints? Like, have
no,
they ever upheld?
Quite a good one, actually.
That would be really fun. We should do that bonus episode.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
Have they ever upheld a complaint?
I don't know.
And what does that mean?
I feel that it's been a while since we've had a good complaint.
Yeah.
I think
Comedy in McLeod.
I think the acid attack episode earlier this year got a handful for being quite harrowing. But apart from that, it feels like it used to be a bit more often. That it would be like hundreds of people have complained at Coronation Street for X, Y, and Z. It was almost like a badge of honour for Kate Oates, wasn't it?
Oh yeah,
how many complaints can I get for this?
I bet she had
because it got people talking.
You know those like this factory has been accident free for a number of days.
This soap has been complained free.
Or maybe she had like like when you have the the church needs a new roof and this is our fund.
Yeah,
Do you think she had like a thermometer and she was like, how many can I get up here? I want 1,000.
I went onto the Ofcom website earlier on today, and it's really difficult to find archives of complaints. Like, apparently there was an episode in early July or late June, I can't remember, that got 2 complaints, but I couldn't find out what it was about. I don't know whether there's a whole section of it that I couldn't find, but
well, we need to get them.
They need to be a bit more.
Maybe we can make it an interview episode and get somebody from Ofcom on.
Maybe. A few more Evelyn quotes from Maureen before we finish.
72 complaints for the acid attack. That's tame.
I mean, it shows that not as many people are watching the soaps anymore, but the number of complaints go down as well.
Well, can you believe that more people complained that Evelyn belittled play therapy than they did that somebody's face was literally melting off in a shower?
Right, a couple more quotes and then we will end this. So this is a few years after her debut. Maureen said, "I'm not keen on the idea of softening her." This is quite interesting. "I think it's a good balance to have someone who can speak her mind. When you watch the old episodes, you watch them and they talk at the speed of the typewriter as it's written on the typewriter. So bring a bit of that back. She's formidable, and I think she should stay formidable." I love it's absolutely right when you look at the early episodes and people like Ena Sharple's just it was like no gaps.
They were sharp and fast like bullets. It came out.
Yeah, and Evelyn is like that to some extent, but it felt like lots of people were like that in the early days. So if like one character's doing it now, it's not going to be as noticeable. But she didn't like the idea of Evelyn being softened. But I think it's been quite important for the character. I think that in her early days, as much as I was wowed by the idea of Maureen Lipman coming in, she was more difficult to like, wasn't she? She had some funny moments, like with the dogging in the, that...
I'm going to say I was a bit of a critic of Evelyn. I wanted to really like her when she first came in.
I really, really wanted to. But
I was so ready for a new battle axe. The same way I love a serial killer. I think battle axe is an important part of Coronation Street.
Yeah.
That like the texture of the show. And I just thought she came off as nasty and unfunny in her her original few months. And I think it took them a while to iron out how are we going to make Evelyn different from the previous characters of this type, but also, antagonist for people. And I think they missed the mark to begin with.
I do, but I think they were able to. I think it was when the whole "what's Evelyn's secret? Oh, it was me that dumped you on the police station steps," and then when she was able to open up to Tyrone and get a bit teary about that, and that showed that she did have some humanity in her. And I think it was from around about that point onwards that you were like, okay, so this is what Evelyn's going to be like. She does have a beating heart in there somewhere. So
yeah, I agree.
Final quote. "We've seen a few more nuances to her." This is in 2020 she said this. "Although she still has no discernible membrane between her brain and her lips. Fortunately, she's able to take it as well as she gives it out. She has a soft spot for Roy. Evelyn likes facts, as Roy does, and is curious about issues."
So there you go, all the way back there. It makes you wonder whether they had a different storyline in mind before COVID.
There was definitely some kind of connection between her and Roy very early on.
From the very start. But I wonder whether it's supposed to be a love triangle between her, Roy and Arthur.
And Arthur, maybe. Who knows? We'll never find out.
Well, I would love to know. I wish that there was, in 10, 20, 30 years' time, are we going to get Corrie COVID diaries to find out what happened? It must have been chaos. I take my hat off.
Yeah, we've heard some things about they had to change this. There were some things they like to trumpet about. This is how we managed to do this. But the amount
there must be a lot of stuff.
The amount of frantic underwater paddling there must have been while on surface they were able to maintain some sense of serenity.
And of course, the issue is that you can't talk about it without talking about people's private medical information, which is not appropriate at all. But maybe when everyone's dead, we won't be able to read it though, will we?
If Evelyn were to eventually leave the programme, would you want her to be dead?
Right.
Would you like her to go off and have a happy life with Cassie? Would you like her to go off with Arthur? What's your pick?
Where's the alien? How do we pick for aliens?
No, that's not an option.
I like the idea of her going to Canada.
I like the idea as well.
I mean, I don't know, Paul. I don't know if he would come back to the show or not for it. I know, but will he be around? Will he be able to? Don't know, but it kind of like the minimum I would accept, which would still be quite fun, I think, would be for Evelyn to say, I'm going to Canada, I don't know how I'm going to find him, I don't know where he is, but I'm going to find Arthur, and, leave it open. I think just imagining Evelyn kind of trampling across Canada and forcing her way into making Canadians help her on her quest to find her lost love.
I can kind of see her saying, well, my job here is done with Tyrone and Fizz, and kind of Mary Poppinsing off into the horizon.
Yeah, like a malignant Mary Poppins.
Yeah, but I think if we were to see her going off with Cassie and saying, I've got you clean, we've rebuilt the bridges again, I'm going to be the mum that I never could be before, I'd just be left with a tinge of sadness, like, things are probably going to go south with her. What if she falls off the wagon again? But if her final moments were, I'm going to go and live whatever life I've got left with Arthur, I think that would be quite heartwarming. And she absolutely deserves a good exit. I mean, that I suppose would be the classic back of the taxi exit, which is kind of a bit naff for Evelyn. But maybe if it was similar to Becky's, because that was going off now exit, and that was very triumphant.
I can imagine.
She deserves something like that.
Imagine her final scene being a bit like Becky's, where she's on the plane and she's in first class, and they're like, would you like some champagne, Miss Plummer? And she's like, yeah, I've got plenty to celebrate, I'm off to see my boyfriend. Yeah,
and then like a proper genuine smile. I think that'd be lovely. But hopefully we won't have to worry about that for a little while. I'm sure she's got plenty more adventures to come, but we'll have to see. But it felt appropriate, and we have managed to nearly get 2 hours out of this character.
But do you remember when we used to do like 20 minutes? Yeah, I know. Full blown. But permanent. This is
a big one, and it's what's going on there. This is a real favourite of ours. It's one of these characters that when she's in a scene, there's going to be
something good.
Something good's going to happen, and when she gets a storyline, well, Corrie's in a good place.
It also helps that she spends some of her time with one of my favourite characters of all time, Dev.
Her and Dev, brilliant together. Yeah, I do think that was a great move, put her in the shop, I really do.
Imagine Dev one day gets a bit tipsy and he's like, hey, Evelyn.
Gosh,
Evelyn,
yes.
I've been with an older woman before.
He could. Oh my gosh, Dev getting drunk and coming on to Evelyn. That has got to happen. Or even he could, there's the classic soap thing of somebody gets naked and sticks a rose between their mouth and they turn around because they think that they're
they're
between the lips.
Somebody coming in.
They think that somebody else is going to be there, and he ends up flashing his bits to Evelyn. I think that there could be a lot that comes out of that.
There you go, Corrie. Please make it happen.
You can have that one on us, Coronation
You know how
Street.
many times we said like, "Oh, wouldn't it be funny if?" And then we know that some Corrie people listen to this and they're just like, "Well, that's one in the bin that we can't use now." Thanks very much.
Honestly, just use it. We don't mind. We'll have to see. I'd quite like to meet Maureen Lipman one day. I don't know whether that'd be a case of meeting your heroes. Might not.
I read a blog post that Will Wheaton wrote, who was Wesley Crusher in Star Trek Next Generation, about when he met William Shatner for the first time, and William Shatner was an absolute arse to him, and it just broke his heart into a million pieces. I can imagine myself saying something utterly ridiculous and stupid, or being accidentally rude, or interrupting the great Maureen Lipman and her icy gaze, like Evelyn's character.
I know. I mean, we've met so many of the actors on Coronation Street at this point. Like I've got no kind of nerves or anything about chatting to most of them. But I think this would be one that I'd be like, oh,
there's a few that I would be scared of.
What if?
Todd Boyce, Jimmy Harkishin, Maureen Lipman.
Oh, I think Todd Boyce and Jimmy Harkishin would be
but I've seen them in real life and I was scared of them because they're both really tall.
Yeah.
William Roach was a bit scary. Not scary, but I was in awe. That's the thing I'm thinking. I would be in awe.
William Roach just swooshed past us.
I know,
oh my god.
And I think did we see Helen Worth, didn't we?
Yeah, we saw Helen Worth. She said a little hello to us.
Oh.
Yeah, but I think I can imagine that she would be, nice and. Anyway, maybe one day it will happen. We'll have to see. Get her on the podcast for an interview. That's another one. Like, mostly with these interviews, I don't have any nerves about anymore. But if I could imagine doing an interview with Maureen Lipman and just completely turning to jelly and sounding like a blathering idiot. So maybe it's best that doesn't happen.
Well, she's absolutely wonderful, and I love her very much.
Yes, stay on the show for as long as you can, please, and don't let her go Coronation Street. And if Ian McLeod
pay her what she
does
wants.
Go one day, don't take her with you, whatever you do.
No.
Right, we are going to finish because, I mean, this is the second podcast we've recorded today. We did our Patreon one earlier on today, so I think we need to rest our little voices, don't we?
No more speaking.
Have some dinner. No more speaking for the rest of the day. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hope you enjoyed this little look back on memory lane. And here's to another 5+ years of Evelyn.
I want at least.
That's 5+ years and no more pandemics. That means she has to be off screen for long periods of time. Anything else to add?
No.
Me neither. Goodbye.